Welcome in episode 192, What's Right with Nick Wright. Starting promptly and on time. Great job by our tech staff today, making sure we didn't have to deal with some of those tech things we dealt with on Tuesday. Apologies again for that. In fact, we're on time. I forgot to tweet out the link. Now I've done it. Thanks to Jake and Victor and Daniel and everyone making sure that happened. Ton to do today. I was at MSG last night. I went there to watch Wemby. Instead, I just watched how terrible the Spurs are. We'll discuss that in a moment. We have our gambling show. One of the two of us is coming off not only a winning week, but what really could have been, should have been, would have been a 5-0 week. The other one is on the third longest teaser losing streak in recorded sports media history. I'll let you guys guess who's who, but we will discuss later in the show. All right, here's what missed the cut for today's show. Kyler Murray set to return with a question about that. Carson Wentz signs with the Rams, and the Nets fans boo Harden at Barclays. Damonza, I actually want to talk about Kyler coming back for the Cardinals for just a moment. Because what? What are you all godding?
I'm getting it, by the way. Are you going to say something about the Call of Duty that's coming out Friday?
Oh, no. I didn't even know. There's a Call of Duty coming out on Friday?
There's a new Call of Duty that comes out this Friday. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. What a bad beat for Kyler. Comes out right when he's got to go back to work. No, I did not know that, but that's hilarious. Here's what I was going to say. Jonathan Gannon, if he can, he's the coach of the Cardinals, rookie head coach. If he can thread the following needle, then I think maybe he should get coach of the year consideration. And then and this is what I mean. Jonathan Gannon, the Cardinals obviously had a plan going into this year. Be terrible, draft Caleb Williams. And that's the plan. And also, by the way, have the Texans draft pick, and the Texans are better than we expected, to draft another guy, and then hopefully get another good draft pick for Kyler Murray. Now, because he's a new coach, I don't think he wanted to come in and immediately have it be like, this team has no hope, they got no chance. So they beat the Cowboys in week 3, throw everyone off the tanking scent, and now all of a sudden we wake up in week 10 and they're like, wait, they haven't won since then. So now what the Cardinals need to do is bring Kyler back, have him play well enough that he is worth a first-round pick to someone while maintaining the number 1 pick. So they need to have their quarterback play pretty well and look healthy, not win any games. And if they do that, they are set up beautifully for the future, and all believe in Jonathan Gannon despite his odd who took the bus press conference. I'm very interested, and I'm interested if Kyler comes back, looks great, or looks good even, and they end up with the 3rd pick, and then it's like, do you pivot entirely, and instead of going quarterback, stick with Kyler, draft Marvin Harrison Jr., and go from there? It's a very fascinating situation in Arizona, so a quick little take there on what missed the cut. Now let's get into the show, Damonza.
All right, so you were really low on Wemby at one point, and it seemed like the season started out.
Hold on. See, you can't start the show off with lies. I thought that folks putting his floor at Akeem Olajuwon was maybe going to be a little too much pressure on the 19-year-old French kid. I was never low on Wemby. I just wasn't as astronomically high as others. Now go ahead.
One might argue that's kind of low, but
in reference, sure. In comparison to others, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you went to the game last night, and he did really poorly. Did seeing him in person and put up that performance give you a different type of perspective on him, or are you still at the same?
Well, listen, he had by a rookie standards, a legendary performance 1 week ago today. The game he had against Phoenix, outplaying KD, going 38-10, being a monster defensively, made, I think, all of us stop and be like, oh my God, like, what is this guy not going to be eventually? What is he right now? because, and Wildes made this point, they played Durant in back-to-back games, and you kind of saw in the first game, he was a little shaky in the first half, and then by the second half had figured some things out, and then when they played him again a couple days later, all of a sudden, he's the best player on the court. And it's like, is he learning in real time, like artificial intelligence and like, you know, all the, you know, like, oh, okay, so this is how you play Kevin Durant when I get him again. And people were really, I mean, Tom Haberstroh, who I have a lot of respect for, was talking about how there was great value on him to be the NBA's MVP this year at like 45-1. So we all did get maybe a little ahead of ourselves. We did a game on the show where I put up would you rather have, not for the future, but for this season. And the names Wemby and we did Jaylen Brown. We did Kevin Durant was one of them. We didn't do Tatum. I tried to do guys that I thought, I'm trying to think of.
Did you do LeBron or no?
We didn't do LeBron. We did Kawhi. And but it was like that caliber of player. We did. I'm trying to think of everyone that Jimmy Butler. You know what I mean? We did like guys in that 7 to 25 range in the league. And I mean, Brew took him over KD after that game. It's like, how could you not? Okay, so since then he and the Spurs have not been good at all. They haven't won. Last night, he came out firing. He didn't hit his early shots, and then he seemed to lose a bit of confidence. So here are my big takeaways from watching him on every single possession. He goes 7, 8 possession stretches without touching the ball. Bill Simmons made this point prior to yesterday, and he's 1,000% right. The Spurs desperately need a point guard. They have Jeremy Sohan, who's a small forward running point for them. No one knows how to get Wemby the basketball, and that's a little frustrating. The other thing that is true is this. He does, right now, despite his size, he just has no inside offensive game whatsoever, other than rim runs and putbacks. Like, you can't give him the ball and just have him go to work. And we know he can't lean on people. But what I found so interesting watching him, at least yesterday, is maybe because he missed those first few shots, when he did get the ball on the perimeter, he seemed to like be trying to go by people when it felt like the whole idea of why he's going to be so transcendent is he can just shoot over everyone. And he either was hesitant to last night or it just didn't have it. And I don't want to overreact to one night, but what it definitely did do was took him out of the game a bit defensively. He didn't make an impact defensively that one could see in that game, and offensively he was a negative. Now you remind yourself, he's 19 years old, and that was his 8th career NBA game. But for people that were arguing, should the Spurs have been a little more aggressive this offseason, I didn't think they should, because you don't want to try to microwave this. But for his development, them having an actual adult point guard, I think could be incredibly useful. Like a guy like a Mike Conley, or it doesn't have to be a great player, just someone that can come in and orchestrate things. Because, I mean, Doug McDermott's out there running and gunning. Sohan is trying to play out of position. I mean, the Spurs are a bad, bad team. So it was fascinating to watch. The most stunning moment of the night, honestly, because when you're watching the game, because of like guys at different depths and perspective or whatever, you can tell who the tallest guy is, but you don't really have the exact right perspective on it. The most stunning moment was the national anthem. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's because all the guys are lined up next to each other. And Wemby looked make-believe. He looked like how one of like NBA guys look when they go to like see people at a school and they take a picture with the administration. It's like, oh, there's Kevin Durant, and then there's regular people.
Modern day
But he was
Wilt
standing
Chamberlain,
next
man.
to. Well, yeah, I mean it's really, that part was remarkable. He had a really rough game, but listen, I picked Scoot Henderson for Rookie of the Year, and we haven't talked much about him. And the reason we haven't talked much about him is because he hasn't got it going. Scoot so far this year is, I'll give you his numbers exactly. He's only played 5 games because he got hurt. He's given you 8 points, 4.5 assists on 35% from the field and 9% from 3. So it's, listen,
long season.
tough life for long season, tough early on for rookies. There have been some rookies. Derek Lively, for the Mavs has been really good. There have been some. Obviously the Thunder have 2 excellent rookies, Case and Wallace, and then Chet, who's like a rookie because he didn't play last year, but was the previous year's draft class. Chet's been excellent. Now, Chet is a guy I was very down on, who thus far has been excellent, and so we'll see. All right, next.
All right, so it seems like the longer LeBron stays in the league, the more disrespect he gains. He's getting disrespect from players, panelists, the refs. Dylan Brooks held him to 18 points last night, locked him up like he said. If he's still playing at a high level, why is the disrespect only growing from fans?
All right, so let's talk about the refs thing for a moment. This is not even a controversial opinion. This is backed up by the data. I forget which site it was, but actually just compiled in the last 8 years. You know, the NBA does those last 2-minute reports. What player has been disadvantaged? What player has had more calls be wrong calls by the NBA's own reports? No player has had more calls go against them than LeBron James at the end of these games. And even when you do, well, how many did he have go for him? He is more in the negative than any player in the league. I think Embiid's the opposite. Embiid's had more things go his way that the refs then say, hey, he got the wrong whistle in his favor. There is a level of, and last year the data backed this up as well, of if you take all the play, and people are like, well, it's because LeBron's shooting so many more threes. If you take all the players, the league leaders, in either points at the rim, points in the paint, or shots in the paint, LeBron last year and the year before, and this year it's very early, was the lowest in free throw rate. So you're talking about attacking guys going to the basket. He just hasn't been getting calls. And there is an element of that he has lost, I think, some of the luster of this is the hands-down best player in the game. He needs a beneficial whistle. Like every best player, Jordan got it, Kobe got it, yeah, anyone in the discussion for all-time legend at their apex, Giannis can get it to a degree. He doesn't get that anymore because he's older, but he's still so physically imposing that guys slap him on the arm when he's going up for a layup, and it doesn't seem like it affects him the way it would affect other guys. So that is frustrating, and I think it's incredibly frustrating for LeBron, and the Lakers are right that it's not just like Laker fans being like, oh, the refs are against us. By the data, he has had a very tough whistle for his entire Lakers tenure. That's the first thing. As far as players going at him, it's the only player that's really gone at him this year is Dylan Brooks, and guy's a clown. This is a clown. Dylan Brooks has lost the right to be taken seriously. He lost it in the series against what? What are you wincing about? Tell me why I'm wrong.
Dylan Brooks isn't having a bad year. I feel like he's having a decent year.
No. He's actually having an excellent year. But when you, Dylan Brooks, when you say the things he said in the playoff series against the Lakers and then run from the media and then cry saying, I don't know why everyone is calling me a villain, the media's done this, and then introduce yourself repeatedly as Dylan the villain, and the last time you played LeBron, you got kicked out of the game for punching him in the balls, and then this time you're like, I'm going to lock him up, you're a clown. You're a clown and you don't deserve to be discussed. Like, the only reason
Fair.
we talk about Dylan Brooks more than 150 other guys in the league is because he just talks like he's a star. He's just the obvious manifestation of the
Little Pat
evolution,
Bev.
or I should say evolution, of Patrick Beverly. Exactly right. He's a clown. Now, the media stuff, I don't know. Like, everyone was, it seemed like on a lot of shows, would LeBron have been the same guy with or without Miami? Did he need Miami? Everyone was a lot more interested in that discussion than I was. Like, what I do think is it is possible that without Miami, LeBron's career would not have gone this long. I think that if those 4 years in the apex prime of his career, he didn't go to Miami, learn what he learned from that organization, be around Spoelstra, and maybe most importantly, for the only 4-year stretch of his entire career, was he on a team that if he went to the bench, they could survive, and he didn't have to play these crazy minutes, things like that, I don't know if he'd still be at this level in year 21. He was already one of the greatest players ever before he went to Miami. Before he went to Miami, he was a 2-time league MVP, 4-time All-NBA first team, 2-time second team, and had taken a team to the finals at age 22 and had a playoff run where he averaged 35 points a game. Now, he wasn't a champion yet, and if people believe, well, he wouldn't have won any championships if he hadn't gone to Miami, I think that's crazy. Would he have had the same number? I don't know. He won 2 in those 4 years, but everything about his career changes after that. Does he go somewhere? Pardon me. Does he go somewhere else? Does he stay in Cleveland? If he stays in Cleveland, they never get Kyrie Irving. They don't get, Kevin Love. It's the whole thing's different. So I don't know. What I do know is there are certain guys across sports history, particularly in the NBA, that were going to be all-time great legends no matter what. LeBron obviously is on that shortest of short lists. Now, people could say, what would Kareem's career have been if he didn't go to the Lakers? Well, it's an interesting question because Kareem had already won one championship and won one Finals MVP and won multiple MVPs with the Bucks. But he then won, 4 more MVPs, 5 more championships, and went to 9 more finals with the Lakers. So I don't know what, the career would have been. I do know that LeBron's career could not have possibly worked out better. In my opinion, I think he's the greatest athlete ever. And so every decision along the way, I don't think you could have been like, this decision, it would have worked out better for him. I don't think there could be a better outcome than the story of you get drafted to your hometown team, you're within a year in the discussion for the best player in the league, take them to the finals, lose to a legend in Tim Duncan. The Boston Celtics, a legendary organization, creates the first modern super team because of you, because you're there and they need to get past you. You then can't get past that super team that was created to defeat you. You go to Miami, a team that has a friend of yours in your draft class who had already teamed up with a legend in Shaquille O'Neal to win a championship. You guys immediately make the finals, and you have the one and only true failure of your career. It humbles you to a degree. It makes you a better basketball player. And then from that moment on, you reel off the greatest decade of basketball anyone's ever played. In the next 10 years, you can squint, you can argue, but in the next 9 years, I should say, you make the NBA Finals 8 times. You have the longest winning streak in the history of the league. Or in the second longest winning streak, in the history of the league. You are involved in one of the greatest Game 6s and Game 7s of a finals ever. You then go back home. You have the greatest comeback in finals history. Sandwiched around the greatest comeback in finals history, you have the greatest series in a losing effort in finals history, the 36-13-9 with your teammates injured. And then on the back end of it, the single greatest game in finals history, the 51-8-8 in game one against Durant and those guys. The greatest individual playoff run in NBA history, the 2018 playoffs where he had 8 40-point games. You then go to the greatest organization in the history of the league that for the first time in its 70-year career or 70-year existence is in a downswing, hasn't made the playoffs in 6 years, and within a year you win a title for him. And then in that uniform, you become the NBA's all-time leading scorer, breaking the record of a legend from that organization, and now in year 21, you're still the best player on your team and one of the best players in the league. It's not like, well, but if he'd have gone to Chicago, what he would have, not that, not fucking that. And so, I think it worked out pretty well. All right, next.
No,
I guess I was
kind
of
of
interested
over
in that
here.
story. Well, it's just an accurate telling of this tale. It's just, I am, if nothing else, I am, an arbiter of truth and fairness, and it's important to be, have somebody out there that is going to tell the true story. And what's a better story than a guy being immediately great, can't get over the hump, tasting real failure, reaching the absolute pinnacle, going back home, overcoming what was considered an insurmountable deficit, and then saying, new challenge, going to the greatest organization ever that was in total shambles and instantly delivering them a championship, and now being literally the oldest player in the league and still one of the best players in the league. Never seen anything like it. Next.
All right, so the 49ers and Jags are going to face off. Both teams are coming off a bye. The Jaguars are obviously on the 5-game winning streak, and the 49ers are on the 3-game losing streak. So is this the ultimate setup for a Nick Wright situation with Purdy facing off versus Trevor Lawrence?
I mean, it feels like it, doesn't it? I mean, if after this weekend, and it's the biggest game of the weekend, this weekend's slate is not great at all. Last weekend had an amazing slate. This weekend's slate is not a group of great games. It's the marquee game. And if the Jags get to 7-2, while the Niners fall to 5-4, and it's because Trevor cooks and Purdy struggles, and all of a sudden, within a month, the same... You know what's going to be glorious if and when this happens? By the way, it's a tough game. Niners still an excellent team. They're coming off the bye. They should be healthier. This is a big test for the Jags. No team in the league this year has had a winning streak longer than 6 games. They're trying to get it to 6. They're trying to... What are they? Yeah, they're trying to get it to 6 games. That would be right. So listen, it's by no means is this like, a layup win. The Niners are still a really good team, but nothing will be more satisfying for me than if the Jags win, watching my same colleagues, some of which I host a show with, many of which, are on other networks that I like and respect, having on Monday morning, a month after they were talking on their shows or on our show, is Brock Purdy the NFL's MVP? The topic will be, is Trevor Lawrence the NFL's MVP? And the follow-up question is, could Brock Purdy be benched? I'm letting you know right now, we are one Jags win away from that being a conversation. Now, I also want to make this clear. I do not think Trevor's the NFL MVP. I do think if they win this game and get to 7-2 in a year there is no standout runaway MVP favorite, it will be a discussion. And I am not saying you should bench Brock Purdy for Sam Darnold, but I am saying if you're the Niners and you've lost 4 in a row.
MVP, by the way, but
who is?
Sorry, Lamar Jackson. But I get it, like they do the whole.
Lamar. Right now, I think Lamar if the voting were today, I think Lamar would win it. It would also be the reason for a quarterback who has 9 passing touchdowns through 9 games. You can say, oh, well, running too. Okay, so 14 total touchdowns because he has 5 rushing through 9 games. That would be a below average MVP season. Does that make sense? Like, if you look at guys who've won MVPs over the last few years, there's not an Aaron Rodgers with 38 touchdowns, 6 picks, Mahomes leading the league in points and yards and touchdowns. There isn't one no doubt candidate. You could make a great case for Lamar. I'm not arguing against it. We talked about on the show, because there's no standout candidate, could Joe Burrow get back in the conversation? Even though he was terrible for 5 weeks because he was hurt. The answer is probably yes. Like, everyone's talked about how bad the Chiefs' offense has been. Mahomes right now is the favorite to win the award because there's no standout. So that's why Trevor, despite his numbers, I think he has 8 passing touchdowns this year, maybe 9. Like, his passing numbers have not been super gaudy, and he obviously doesn't run as well as Lamar. I do think with the Ravens, the biggest story of the Ravens season so far is, and I guess we'll get to it in a second, but is their defense more than Lamar, as good as Lamar's been? Point I'm making is if the Jags win, first of all, trumpeters, live and in person on First Things First. Second of all, is Trevor Lawrence the NFL MVP will be a talking point, and should the Niners give Sam Darnold a look will be a talking point. By the way, I won't argue for either. I don't think Trevor's the MVP, even if they win, not yet. And I don't think that the Niners should go to Darnold, even if Purdy plays terribly. But that will be a talking point from the very same people that were trying to convince me Brock Purdy was the NFL's MVP. Let me ask you one other question before we move on. If Purdy fully falters, and also given what sad he got hurt, but what Daniel Jones was looking like before he got hurt. If both of those things happen, next football season, if we're fortunate enough to still be doing this, will you take my quarterback, I need to see more, I don't quite trust him opinions a little more seriously, or will you still just think I'm an unrepentant hater? I'm asking you specifically. If I end up being calling both of these.
Yeah, that'd be very fair. I feel like I wouldn't call it stupid, but it'd be kind of ignorant to ignore that. But yeah, no, I definitely, I might kind of take like the same stance where I need more test samples. But
yeah, there you go. Okay.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
I like it. Yeah, all right, go ahead.
Yeah, so does it offend you at all, or are you like a little hurt that Trevor Lawrence has no idea that, like, you call him the prince that was promised? Like, he kind of like shrugged.
I didn't like that. Listen. I'll be honest. I didn't like any part of it. Sam Pepper used to produce. He used to produce my TV show. He now works for Omaha Productions. And I think I don't know, but I think he probably had a hand in that question being asked, was trying to do me a solid. Every single part, if people didn't see it, Peyton asks Trevor Lawrence a question. And he says, Nick Wright from Fox. And by the way he said it, it was not like the next words out of his mouth were going to be like, oh, I love that guy. It was more like, who is this? Like, that was from, like, it was very clear Peyton Manning.
Peyton also said when Trevor said that he had no idea about it, or does he go by that? And Trevor said no, and Peyton was like, good.
Yeah. So he asked him if, so Peyton says, Nick Wright from Fox Sports, has called you the prince that was promised. It's also your nickname on Pro Football Reference. Has this name caught on in the locker room? And Trevor said no, and that he'd never heard it. And Peyton said good, and then they laughed. And I will admit, at first, Damonza, that was sad and disappointing. And then I realized he's just a humble prince, which we need more of. He didn't, you know what I mean? He was humble and didn't want to draw more attention to himself, so I understood. All right, next.
All right, man. Currently, the entire AFC North holds a playoff spot with the Ravens leading the way, obviously. Predict a team that fits for each of these categories by the season's end. Division winner, strong 5 seed, fighting for the 7 seed, or misses playoffs completely.
All right. The logical order would be this. The Ravens hold on to win the division. The Bengals are a terrifying 5 seed. The Browns get the fight for the 7, and the Steelers miss the playoffs completely. That's the logical, smart, if you've been watching them up to this point, order of how it's going to go. I do not think it's going to go that way. I think that something funky is going to happen with either Baltimore or Cincy. I don't know which. But I feel like right now people are getting a little ahead of themselves that
Why
we
do you do
know.
stuff like that, man? You just have a tendency
stuff
to
like what?
jinx stuff, like speak it into existence. I think something's funky gonna happen. Like, come on, dude.
Well, I've been doing this too long to not have my antenna go up when everyone in the media this prematurely has the same opinion. And everyone in the media has essentially
Halfway through the season, prematurely, or you mean just prematurely because it's not to the postseason yet?
Well, it's just a ton of football left. Of football left to be played. Half of the season remains. Half, like as much has been played, that much is left. And there is, when everyone is in agreement, seemingly, that the AFC North is going to come down to Baltimore and Cincy, and when it's one thing if these two, like, if you were to be like, well, the NFC East is going to come down to Philly and Dallas. It's like, well, the Giants are, almost mathematically eliminated already, and Washington's trading away its players. Got it. But when the Steelers have underperformed as much as they have on offense and are still 5-3, it makes you pause. When the Browns are getting D-level play from the quarterback position and are still right there, you pause. And when you recognize that the Ravens have been 6-3 or better every year Lamar's been a starter, and it has gone sideways on them multiple times, now people are like, well, that's because of injury. Agreed, but I think that is just one of the concerns. But the other reason that I'm just pumping the brakes on it a bit is this. Here is the Ravens, and I'll then do the Bengals, remaining schedule. And by the way, the same can be said about the Browns and the Steelers to a degree. But here's my question for you, Damonza, because I'm going to read it off to you.
I see him.
So I'm going to read it off. And my only question is, how many easy spots do they have? So they are home for the Browns, home for the Bengals, at the Chargers, home for the Rams, at the Jags, at the Niners, home for the Dolphins, home for the Steelers. How many easy spots do you count there? Because I know how many I count.
I'd say like kind of 1.5.
Okay,
Rams, I think will take care of that, but Chargers, I'm not like I feel like we'll take care of that, but same time it can be a little frisky.
Exactly
but
right.
All the other games, though.
That is the exact math I did. The Rams are the one game where you're like, the Rams are cooked. They cannot block Baltimore. They cannot. And then the Chargers, you want that to be an easy game, but that was at the Chargers, right? And so it's like Baltimore going all the way to the West Coast, weird spot. The Chargers, you just never know what you're going to get to them on a week-to-week basis.
We don't know who the Dolphins are yet. And we're a good team, so it's like when the Dolphins see us,
fair.
Who knows what happens there.
And that's correct. And that's in Baltimore, right? So in Baltimore in January into December or January. But you follow me that it's not there are no lock up 3 wins. All right, now we're going to do Cincinnati. Do the same thing. Tell me the easy games. Home for the Texans, at the Ravens. Home for the Steelers, at the Jaguars. Home for the Colts, home for the Vikings, at the Steelers, at the Chiefs, home for the Browns. So how many easy games do you count there?
About 2.5 maybe. With Texans being the half, Vikings and Colts, I see them easily getting.
Vikings and Colts are easy. Are the two games I counted. The Texans spot, and we'll get to it when we do our picks in a minute. You don't know, and when you're the Bengals, and you had basically 4 consecutive season on the line games, 1-3. And you're in Arizona, your season's on the line, even though it's early because you're playing the Cardinals, you're 1-3. You get that win. You then 2-3, okay, home for the Seahawks, get that win. And then I guess season not on the line anymore, but massive spots. At the Niners, home for the Bills. And next week, the division is on the line because you've already lost to Baltimore at the Ravens. The Texans are like the vintage trap game spot, and Jamar Chase is banged up, and all of a sudden T. Higgins missed practice. So I don't consider the Texans right now an easy spot at all. Texans, meanwhile, flying so high off their insane win. So moral of the story is, I think, to use a term from political parlance, I think it's too early to call the AFC North. I just think, yeah, and here is the other thing that, and I know you're going to say I shouldn't speak this into existence, and I'm not trying to, but the other thing that would concern me if I were any of these 4 AFC North teams is having games this many, the Bengals in particular, having Ravens, Steelers, Browns, 4 games remaining against divisional rivals, all of which that have awesome defenses and want to hit the shit out of you, would really give me anxiety about what is, even if my team can get rolling, what shape are we going to be in physically by the time the playoffs start? And if you're the Bengals, your final 3 games of the year being at Pittsburgh, at Kansas City, home for the Browns, 3 of the best defenses in the league, in cold weather, it's a tough spot, man.
Well,
and so
if the Ravens take care of the
concern.
next 3 games, I feel like if they can come out of the next 3 games 2-1 maybe, I'd say we're in pretty good shape. And honestly, I think we might be able to bench Lamar towards the end of the year.
Well, probably not if you're trying to get the 1 seed, but maybe I've always thought actually the best thing that for a team that a team could have going for them if they can't get the 1 seed is to actually be eliminated from contention for it. So in week 18, what you don't want in week 18, let's say you're the Ravens and you're in this scenario in week 18. If we win and Kansas City loses to the Chargers, we get the 1 seed. You don't want to be in that scenario. I understand you're like, oh, well, it could happen. But then you go all out, play all your guys, the Chiefs win anyway, you're in the 2. You'd almost, now what you'd rather is it flatly be, if we win, we're the 1 seed. We don't need anything else. We win, we're the 1 seed, or have it locked, obviously. But the next best thing is this. We can't be the 1 seed. The Chiefs have it locked. We're not getting the bye. And then you give yourself your own bye in week 18 and rest your guys. Like, who cares if we fall to the 3? We just don't, you know what I mean? We want to give ourselves a bye week. And what you don't want is to think you're playing for something, go all out, and then not get it and have to play the very next week. But the AFC North, point of the story is the AFC North is going to be, it's the most interesting and tightly contested division, and I don't know what's going to happen there. All right, quick break to our gambling show next. What's right? Hey guys, welcome back in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 192. And the holidays are upon us, and I know everyone will start thinking of what gifts to buy their significant others. I know I have, and I'm excited to share a great holiday gift idea with you. Lightbox. Lightbox lab-grown diamonds are grown from 100% renewable wind energy at the Lightbox Lab in Portland, Oregon. Not only that, but they're simply priced. Lightbox's lab-grown diamond jewelry ranges from classic studs to more of-the-moment tennis bracelets, drop earrings, and so much more. I know my wife would like any one of these. Lightbox lab-grown diamonds are perfect for family, friends, or even yourself. Make it easy for yourself and get everyone something special with a discount we have for you. Shop now at lightboxjewelry.com and use promo code NickWright for 10% off site-wide. That is lightboxjewelry.com, promo code NickWright for 10% off site-wide. All right, welcome back in. What's Right with Nick Wright? Week 10 gambling show. I told you last week, Damonza, I felt good about the picks. We not only had a winning week, but 0 bad picks. I understand what you're saying, but yeah, the royal we. Kansas City, minus 1.5 against Miami. They're up 21-0 at halftime. We're covering the entire game. Tampa Bay, +3 at Houston. I thought that was going to be a disgusting push. Did you see, Damonza? So Houston is winning. Baker leads an amazing drive down the field, throws a strike. Tampa is now all of a sudden up 4 with 45 seconds left. C.J. Stroud then drives Houston down. They score. But Houston, in that game, their kicker had gotten hurt. So they were going for 2. Oh. They had the backup running back kicking field goals, the whole thing.
He hit it.
Well, he hit a field goal. But up 2 with 6 seconds left, D'Amico Ryans, this is not just because he got me the cover, did the right thing, which was he was nervous to kick an extra point because he has a backup kicker, and he didn't want to go for 2 because if you're up 2, if you turn it over, the other team can return it for 2 points and it's a tie game. So he did something that has rarely been done in NFL history, but is smart, even smarter than kicking the extra point there because it could be blocked and returned. He took a knee on the extra point, so which you never see, but was the sharp play, and it made my Tampa +3 cover. Now Atlanta minus 4.5 against Minnesota. I think he's been excellent. Damonza, tried to talk me out of. He's like, you keep fading these quarterbacks just based on the fact they're quarterbacks. You keep losing. Here's the deal. The quarterback I was fading, Jaren Hall, immediately got injured. And then Josh Dobbs comes in and cooks. I wouldn't have laid 4.5 points with Taylor Heineke against Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs is legit. I was laying 4.5 points with Taylor Heineke against Jaren Hall. Jaren Hall got injured. Not fair, but whatever. Dallas +3 against Philly. If Dak doesn't step out, we're covering. They still had a chance to win outright. I don't feel badly about that pick. I feel like taking the points was right side there. And the Chargers minus 3.5 against the Jets, they annihilated them. So that's 3-2. So that means, despite the fact that on TV it's been shaky, and despite the fact that we have not, had the monster week yet, Damonza, we're just 21-24, which means we are minus 5.4 units on the year. So one perfect week away from being above 500 in the picks and being right at even almost in the actual dollars. And this is the exact situation we found ourselves in last year before we got red hot to finish the year. I do believe last year after 9 weeks we were 21-24. Now we've gotten here this year on a somewhat circuitous path. Last year I think we had some 0-5, some 5-0s. This year it has simply literally been, I believe, 2-3 or 3-2 every single week.
Time.
If we go 4-1, we're at 500. If we go 5-0, we're above 500. Let's get going. What's my first pick of the week?
First pick is Jacksonville +3 versus San Francisco.
All right, so they're both coming off a bye, so that's a wash. San Francisco traveling cross country for a 1 o'clock start. Tough spot. Brock Purdy has not been a good road quarterback this year. Doug Peterson, 7-1 last 8 games against the spread as an underdog. Trevor Lawrence, whenever he has extended rest, 3-0 straight up and against the spread. And I simply think that this Niners defense right now is a touch overrated. Now, and I think that there are right now real cracks in the armor for that Niners offense. Now, obviously, this is a game where the injury report is going to matter a ton. If you check that 49ers injury report, and this is where doing the picks Thursday morning is tough, but Trent Williams is still not practicing, so that is highly concerning for San Francisco. Now, fortunately for them, Deebo Samuel was a full participant, so he will be back. The Jags injury report is pretty damn clean. I think the Jags win the game outright. I certainly like them +3. The Jags defense has been underrated, and that Niners offense has not been humming. The Jags running game, people are going to talk more about Travis Etienne after this game. I like the Jacksonville Jaguars coming off a bye at home, getting the full 3 points against San Francisco. Your thoughts, Damonza?
I like that one. I honestly do not believe in. I don't. I'm not. I don't want to say I don't believe in Brock Purdy, but I definitely am on Trevor Lawrence's side in this.
Wow, you've come around. Wow. All right.
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
mean, three game losing streak coming off a bye. I mean, but next you've got Cleveland +6 at Baltimore.
Okay, so this is not me picking the Browns to win outright. This is me saying this is statistically the 2 best defenses in football, and it's a divisional matchup, and I'm getting 6 points. Now, I know the Ravens, Damonza, have blown out the Lions and the Seahawks. So here is an important So here is an important note on this. Lamar is now, I think, 18-1 in his career against the NFC, which tells you a few things. Most notably is if you don't face Lamar often, or you almost never face him as these NFC teams, you can't deal with him. If you see him twice a year, I'm not saying he's easy to deal with, but you at least have some familiarity. You can draw upon game plans that you previously had. Now, Baltimore played Cleveland earlier this year and annihilated them 27-3. But if you remember, that was the game that Deshaun Watson morning of was like, I can't play. Sorry, guys, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, good luck, buddy. So I'm not throwing that one out, but I am putting a little mini asterisk just on how much of a blowout it was. I'm getting 6 points. Lamar, over the last 3 years, is 4-14 against the spread when he's favored by more than 3. And he's 3-8 at home against the AFC North against the spread in his career. And so Cleveland getting a full 6 points in a game that feels very 20-17-ish to me, I'll take Cleveland plus the 6. Go ahead.
I don't like it. I'm never gonna do this again. Betting straight up line teaser. I'm not betting against the Ravens. I just think that on any given Sunday they are liable to blow a team the hell out of the water, and I just am not going.
That's fair.
Yeah.
No. I understand. It's a divisional game, tough opponent. 6 points is too much. Next.
Right. You got Houston +7 at Cincinnati.
All right, I'm getting a full 7. Jamar Chase did not practice yesterday, and T. Higgins all of a sudden popped up on the injury report limited. While the Bengals right now, they need every game, they really must have next week's game against Baltimore. So why does that matter? I think they will be extra cautious, Damonza, certainly with Chase, and maybe also with Higgins. Higgins, it's a soft tissue thing. So if they are worried, if we push him to go this week and he can't play against Baltimore, they could be cooked for the division. Jamar Chase hurt his back. I don't expect him to play. You had the massive win against San Francisco, huge win against Buffalo. Next week you have Baltimore. So this is a spot that I think Cincinnati could trip up. It certainly is a spot that they are not going for style points. They are not going to, if they get a lead, they will just try to hold on to it for dear life, get everyone healthy, and get to next week. So I'm getting a full 7 points with a quarterback that I like a lot. They've shown you in Houston, the backdoor cover is alive. They could be down 13 points. They're going to be, throwing it to try to just keep in rhythm. And I think Houston could win outright. I definitely think they can at least keep this relatively close. They're healthier. They are, this is a massive spot for them where to kind of announce themselves as a real playoff, team playoff contention.
Who's this a bigger game for? It's got to be Cincinnati, right?
Well,
gotta be.
Here's the thing. Yes and no. Yes, in that Cincinnati is, trying to be a Super Bowl contender, so all their games are bigger. No, in this regard. For Houston, you could argue this is one of their biggest games of the year. And for Cincinnati, it's their least big game of the last month or the games moving forward. Because they have Baltimore, you know what I mean? And so in that regard, this game just means more for Houston, and I'm getting 7 points, and so I'm going with Houston. Go ahead.
This one directly contradicts my teaser. Hate it when that happens, but
sorry,
sticking it out. But yeah,
okay.
I think it's a logical bet. So next we've got Detroit -3 at the Chargers.
All right, this was the one I struggled with the most. But Detroit, coming off a bye, Detroit in a spot where I feel like because they got rolled the way they did by Baltimore, people, kind of were like, oh, okay, that's not a real, contender team. But as we then saw Baltimore roll Seattle, and maybe Seattle's not a real contender team either, there are some things Baltimore can do that no one else can. The Chargers were a little too happy with themselves with the win over the Jets in a game where, once again, their offense didn't look great. The Detroit is off a bye. The Chargers played Monday. I always hate when the NFL does that to teams. Like, it's not only does the other team have an extra week, but the Chargers don't even have the full week. The Lions, aside from that Ravens game, have been a covering machine. And the Chargers are not a trustworthy team, in my opinion. And so for all those reasons, I think Detroit's going to win. And do I love laying the full field goal on the road? I don't, but it's what the line is. I'll tepidly take Detroit -3. Next.
Got Dallas -16.5 versus the Giants.
Okay, I understand that in theory laying 16.5 points is super square. I mean this sincerely. If Dallas gets to 24, it is impossible they don't cover. If they get to 20, they might cover. And at 17, they could cover. The New York Giants offense, with Tommy DeVito playing quarterback, with their offensive line injuries, I would, and I might make this bet. I bet the Dallas defense outscores the Giants offense. I bet the Dallas defense has more defensive touchdowns than the Giants offense has offensive touchdowns. The Giants are right now, given the injuries, the worst team in the NFL. And Dallas is what they have shown us this year, whether they're a Super Bowl contender or not, we can argue about, is they annihilate shitty teams. Annihilate them. They beat the Giants 40-0 already this year, and that was with the Giants having Daniel Jones at quarterback. They are now have Tommy DeVito at quarterback with Matt Barkley signed to the team. I think that Dak owns I know Dak owns the NFC East. The Giants right now are the worst team in the league. It's a big number. I'll lay the big number. This is a Cowboys blowout. This feels like 30-3. Dallas, I'll lay the 16.5. Your thoughts, Damonza?
My thoughts is Dallas minus 16.5 that's a huge number. It
is a huge number.
It's a really big number.
I mean, there's no doubt about that.
I think that little rant that you just went on might have been more disrespectful than any other rant that I've heard you go on. And there was the Tyson.
Well, listen, the Giants are what they
are. If it's 17 points, but
they can shut them out. So, all right, so here's my 5 picks for the week. We're taking 3 dogs, 2 favorites. One of them's a massive favorite. Jags +3 against the Niners. I think they win outright. Cleveland +6 at Baltimore. Think they keep it close. Houston +7 at Cincinnati. Sneaky trap game spot for Cincinnati. Detroit laying 3 at the Chargers. Don't love it. Dallas minus 16.5 against the Giants. Love it. There are the 5 picks for the week. All right, now Damonza's teaser. So
the energy seemed to go down when you were speaking.
All right, so first of all, our producers are doing
I got
wrong
the
here.
Miami one right.
The Miami one you got right. It's in red, but it should be in green. Damonza's teaser was Miami +8.5, which covered. See, we can put it on the screen, guys. It's all right. Seattle +12.5, which I warned him against. I told him the Ravens screwed him before. He didn't care. It didn't cover. And then Cleveland -0.5 point against Arizona. That did cover. Damonza's season record on the year is 1-8. So the bright side is you can still finish above 500. The downside is to finish above 500, you have to go undefeated the rest of the way. So it's unlikely, but it's on the board. What are we doing this week?
All right, it's time to make a comeback, guys. I've got some. Just look at it as like, you know how when you learn a new language, like you're learning Spanish, they tell you to behave or act as if you were a baby and you're a sponge and just like trying to take it in slowly. That's what we're doing on these teasers, guys. I've got new rules and principles that I'm going to abide as the season goes on. And then hopefully, like my dad said, if we have the graciousness to be doing this next year, we'll get better. But hey, this is not me being down on myself. This is a winning teaser right here. This week, you got a 3-team 7.5 point teaser. I know you love those half points at +105.
Yeah.
We got Jacksonville. We're teasing them up to +10.5. Then we got Minnesota. We're teasing them up to +10. We got Cincinnati, and we're just basically making them a pick'em versus the Texans. Hey, man.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the whole little Texan, the Texans talk that you had. I don't want to say it got me down, but Texans +14.5 would be sweet versus the Bengals. But I'm very confident that the Bengals are going to win that game. As far as Minnesota, I've got no worries that they'll go out there and be within 10 points of the New Orleans Saints. And then Jacksonville, like I said, I just trust Trevor Lawrence a little bit more than I trust Brock Purdy. They're on the winning streak. Brock Purdy's on the losing streak. They're both coming off a bye. What do you want to say? I feel like you got something to say about Cincinnati.
The Vikings one worries me a bit. I stayed away from that game. I just wonder if there's a bit of an emotional letdown there, still playing a quarterback that just got in the building. Saints been playing well. It's not terrible. You obviously know where I stand on not only teasing across the zero, but the Texans-Bengals game in general. I don't love it. I'm not going to lie to you there. If I were to construct a teaser for the weekend, I'm trying to, this is not a great teaser weekend. I'm not going to lie to you on that front either.
All right, wait, hold on. I'm hijacking the teaser boat. Hey, take Cincinnati out +1. We're doing Texans plus 14.5 there.
Wait, so you're just keeping the same game and switching it?
1,000%. What's the problem?
Okay, I'm with you. You know what? Good for you, pal. This is how you turn it around. I thought you were going to be like, put in the Cowboys to -9 or something.
No.
That's not a bad one, by the way.
Texas
The
plus
Cowboys
14.5.
down to -9. And I'm saying, but the Cowboys down to -9 is not a bad one.
No, 100%. No, as you were saying that they could, the whole rant that you went on made me think about putting the Cowboys. But I mean, no, I'm not going to cower away from the game entirely. I want to keep the Texans in there.
I was thinking of it. Okay, all right. So we got Jags plus 10.5, Minnesota plus 10.5, Houston plus 14.5. This is how you turn it around. What's the offer this week, Damonza?
The offer this week is called Nick Was Right. Purdy under 1.5 touchdowns, under 239.5 yards. And the Prince over 1.5 touchdowns, over 241.5 yards. Odds are plus 1,100. You want that.
So
you don't want that because of the San Francisco defense, and we're not sure.
No. I'm a little worried if the Jags are winning the game. It's always, if you think the Jags can win the game outright, you're a little nervous of the under passing yardage numbers for the opposing quarterback. Here's the deal. I'm going to decline that offer, but I am going to create a nice same game parlay for this exact game that I'll tweet out. All right, we'll answer your chat questions quickly. Take a quick break. Come back. What's right? All right, quickly, let's do the questions because I got to get to work. Damonza, what's the first one?
First question is from Dusty. Damonza, are you going to play the new Call of Duty with me again? On the new one, we can get in by joining New Zealand lobbies right now. Dusty, I get paid this Friday or tomorrow, so won't be playing tonight, but you might be able to get on tomorrow after I get it downloaded.
Okay. All right, next.
Next one, Jack Fisher asks, why do you think the Eagles don't use the push tush for 2-point conversions? Seems like they could get it almost every time. That's disgusting.
Oh, so you're coming around on me on this, with me on this?
No, I've never said that the play looks good, but like if it can't be stopped. But doing it for 2-point conversions.
I honestly think the Eagles smartly understand we've got to be careful with how we utilize this if we don't want it to get banned. And I thought when they were doing it, they did it on 1st and 10 when they were backed up on their own 1. And I was like, oh, they always could do this. You know what I mean? But it was a big spot and a big game. So I would not rule it out of the realm of possibilities that they do something like that in the playoffs. They're saving it for the playoffs and be like, stop it. What are you going to do? I think that's on the board. I absolutely think it's on the board. Next.
All right.
Don't ask the in-season. I don't have takes on the NBA in-season tournament. Go ahead.
Axio, we still love you. Brian Reyes said, if CJ Stroud continues to play at this high level for the rest of the season, do you think he has a chance at MVP?
We'll see. If the Texans make the playoffs, I mean, the guy's got, 14 touchdowns, 1 pick. If they make the playoffs and his numbers are amazing, it's on the board. This is a weird MVP year. I made a case yesterday on TV that Myles Garrett should be getting consideration. The Browns have the best defense in the league. He's been awesome every single week. So what are you going to do? All right, there was the show. Do you want to do the last question? I didn't know if you had an answer.
You kind of brought me to the last question perfectly. The Texans are my underdog playoff team.
That would be so much fun. It would also mean a team with very high expectations in the AFC gets left out. That would be really fun and really interesting. All right, I'll see you guys on TV today at 3. See you guys for the pod on Tuesday around 10:30. What's right? Hey, it's Nick Wright. Thank you so much for watching. Please do us a favor. Click subscribe. It helps my ego, and Damonza's got a financial bonus writing on a number of YouTube subscribers, so help him out. And also, click the bell. I don't know what the bell does, but they tell me to tell you to click the bell. And if you're audio listeners, people that have commutes, drives, whatever it is, subscribe to the podcast as well, wherever you get the podcast. Same show, just in your ears instead of through your eyes. All that. Check it out. Appreciate y'all.